So a long time ago, I made a video why you should buy a PS3 in 2015. And I really think that the answer is still true today as it was 6 or 7 years ago when I first recorded that video. The PS3 came out in 2006, and while it stumbled at first, it ended up being a console of some amazing exclusives. As a quick reminder, the PS3 is home to the launch or reboot of some really good franchises that are still on PlayStation today. We saw Killzone have a really good run on PS3. MotorStorm launched on PS3. Last of Us, Uncharted, Infamous, Demon Souls, God of War, and so much more really had a long list of titles on the PS3. Sony also remastered the greatest PS2 games of that generation over to the PS3, and that's including the Sly Cooper collection, the Killzone HD collection, God of War collection, Ratchet and Clank, and so much more. All had a really good remastered release on PS3. While this platform is currently hanging by a thread as Sony continues to cut support for it, the PS3 is still landlocked by itself. No future PlayStation console can really play PS3 games natively yet. And the workarounds that Sony has offered really just doesn't vibe with me really well. For example, you could get PlayStation Now and stream PS3 games to your PS4 or your PS5, but you have issues with latency, the quality just isn't there, and I don't like renting or paying for games as a rental that I already own. There's no real discount or incentive to people who already own PS3 games on that service. There is a rumored PS5 Game Pass competitor that's supposedly launching with the option to rent or include PS3 games. From what I've seen, this is kind of similar to Nintendo Online's expansion pack kind of thing, where you get N64 and Sega games part of that package. But I also feel like owning a PS3 is more important than renting those games. If you really want to be truly involved in this platform, owning a PS3 is definitely worth the investment. I'm going to explain why in this video. So the PS3 can be found in many different SKUs and sizes, but overall I would aim for the PS3 Slim. There were two different revisions of the PS3. There is the regular PS3 Slim, and then the community calls it the George Foreman PS3. All the models have various sizes of their hard drive capacity, but the PS3 Slim goes all the way up to 320 gigs, which is absolutely massive for that generation. Most games that you install are less than a gig. Sometimes, I think the highest I've ever seen is like 10 gigs installed for a single game. So you got plenty of storage options for the PS3. For context, I have one of the smaller size PS3s, 120 gigs, and I have no problem whatsoever. The PS3 controllers may also be difficult to come by, but your local retro gaming stores can carry new third-party PS3 controllers, and the new ones that are coming out are actually pretty decent. If you're still not up to diving into a third-party PS3 controller, there is some good news. The PS3 does support both the DualShock 4 from the PS4 and the DualSense controller from PS5 for a decent amount of select games. I'll leave a link down below to the list of games that support these controllers, but that should help future-proof your console a little bit. So the PS3 can't play every single game on these newer controllers, but really the big ones it can. Also, right now, there are inflated game prices on the used game market, whether you're looking at like older stuff, PS2, N64, DS, Game Boy Advance. Those game prices are really expensive at the moment. But by and large, PS3 games can be found very cheap even during this inflated game market. Some collections can be a little bit more expensive, like the Killzone collection or the Ratchet and Clank collection is pretty expensive, but overall you can find most games for less than $10 or sometimes all the way up to $20. It really depends on what you're looking for, but you'll save a lot of money if you buy a game lot on eBay. So really the reason why you should buy a PS3, in my opinion, is there's so many good exclusives that are only found on this platform. And like I said earlier, the remastered PS2 collection of so many franchises that we see on PS3 are some of the definitive versions of these games. For example, there's the God of War collection where you can play God of War 1 and 2 on a higher resolution and higher frame rate. They also remastered the original Killzone, the PS2 game, onto PS3. There's so many more examples. Killzone 2 and 3 are fantastic on PS3. Infamous 1 and 2 are some of the best games in that type of genre. And there really were some games that were ahead of its time. If it were a toss up between owning a Xbox 360 or a PS3, if you want to get a retro gaming console from that era, I would lean towards the PS3. Reason being is the Xbox is all about backwards compatibility. So even if you buy a new machine, chances are most of your older library of 360 and OG Xbox discs will run on that machine. Of course, not every game will be backwards compatible on the new Xboxes, but by and large, the good portion of the 360 library is. The problem is the PS3, again, doesn't have any newer platforms those games can run on without you renting those games. As time goes on, this hardware is going to be harder and harder to find, and it's going to be more and more expensive. As the demand goes up and the supply goes down, that's going to raise the prices. Sony also has a checkered history of backwards compatibility. The PS2 was fully backwards compatible with PS1, and the early PS3 models were backwards compatible with PS2. But during the PS3 generation, they removed that backwards compatibility in newer SKUs, and the PS4 is not backwards compatible with the PS3. The PS5 is backwards compatible with the PS4, but we still don't have an answer for playing all of the older generations of games. If you want to play PS1, PS2, PS3, you either need to get that original hardware or go for emulation. I know PS3 emulation is quite difficult given the complexity of the cell processor of that machine, and I just don't trust Sony implementing a really strong backwards compatibility program. It won't be anything better than what Xbox has done, where older 360 games have improved frame rates, improved resolution, and even with the One X or Series X enhancements you find on some of these older games, they even run and look better than when they did when they came out, which is really, really cool. Looking at titles like the Gears of War trilogy looks fantastic on the new hardware, same with Fable, Crackdown, and so many others. So how much is this going to cost you to get involved in this platform? It kind of depends on how invested you want to get. If you just want to get a PS3, a couple controllers, and some games that you can only find on that platform like Killzone or Infamous or MotorStorm or something, instead of maybe buying 3 new games this year, that's probably about equivalent to the price it would be to buy a PS3 and a lot of older games that you may be able to discover for the first time. I may not play the PS3 all that much anymore in 2022, but what I can say is I'm really happy that I have these consoles and that I have these games to play since they are landlocked and I can't play them anywhere else without renting what I already own. If you're someone that maybe just wants to dabble and try a few games here and there, then by all means get the PlayStation Now subscription and try out a few PS3 games and see if you really like that platform and that era of gaming. If you do, then consider buying the actual hardware before it gets too difficult to acquire. All in all, I think the PS3 is a fantastic system, and it's got some really good games. There is a whole list of exclusives that you could probably find on Wikipedia. PS3 has so many exclusives, it's unreal. There's a lot that I haven't listed here. Little Big Planet is another one, Demon's Souls, so on and so forth. You can find a lot of good stuff on the PS3. I'd love to know if you're interested in buying a PS3 in 2022 or beyond as the years continue. So let me know in the comments if you're going to discover this platform for the first time in the near future. All right, that does it for me. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you, James.